Varahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. I go for refuge to the Supreme Buddha. I go for refuge to the Supreme Dhamma. I go for refuge to the Supreme Sangha. For the second time, I go for refuge to the Supreme Buddha. I go for refuge to the Supreme Dhamma. I go for refuge to the Supreme Sangha. For the third time, I go for refuge to the Supreme Buddha. I go for refuge to the Supreme Dhamma. I go for refuge to the Supreme Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Say after me to observe the 5 precepts. I observe the precept of abstaining from killing living beings.
abstaining from killing living beings.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from stealing.
abstaining from stealing.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from telling lies.
abstaining from telling lies.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from taking intoxicating drinks and drugs.
abstaining from taking intoxicating drinks and drugs.
May these precepts I have observed
May these precepts I have observed
be for happiness in this life,
be for happiness in this life,
rebirth in heaven,
rebirth in heaven,
and realizing the Four Noble Truths
and realizing the Four Noble Truths
in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation.
in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation.
Sadhu,
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 sadhu.
sadhu. So first we will pay our respect to our teacher, most venerable Kiribatkara Jnananand. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. So switch on your camera, Savia. Okay. Today also we are going to learn a new sutta. What we should understand is when we learn the teachings of the Buddha, we are learning something that is unique. Because unlike other people who acquire knowledge through going through school education, then higher education, then going to universities, or by reading books, by doing research. In this way, by various means, people acquire knowledge. And that knowledge we acquire, we all have studied in our lives, some subject, some sort of things we have studied. We all study. But the knowledge we gain through this process of learning, it changes. What we learn today is not the same. Some days, months, even years back, it changes constantly. The things we learn, they change. What is true today is false some other day. What is deemed the correct method now is later on renounced. It is denounced, saying, okay, this is not the way we should do it. This is the proper way, and they come up with a new thing. Likewise, the information, the study, the process, the learning process, the knowledge base is constantly changing, evolving. So it's always, therefore, lacking in something. That is why, with regard to even science, when they define science, it is all about trying to get near to the truth, as close as possible. So it is not something they fully achieve at any day, given day. They are always experimenting, theorizing. They can never arrive at a perfect answer. So unlike this knowledge we acquire in our lives, the teachings of the Buddha are unique in the sense Buddha realized all this, his realization of the nature of the world, and all the omniscient, we said Buddha is omniscient, that there was nothing in the world that was concealed to the Buddha. He unraveled everything that has to be revealed in this world. There's nothing hidden to the wisdom of the Buddha. So his knowledge was not acquired as we do by external methods, by studying books or whatever, any other method. He himself, through his own wisdom, realized all that is in this world to be realized. Because this world as a whole, whatever things we experience and associate with, are things that we come into contact through our internal senses. So all that is there to be realized in this world with regard to these senses, with regard to these elements, with regard to all the worlds, all the beings in the world, their life, their existence, their passing away, their rebirth, all this was realized by the Buddha. By his own wisdom, without the guidance of a teacher. And once he attained Buddhahood at the age of 35, his knowledge was complete. There was nothing more for him to acquire by me as knowledge. It was complete, it was fulfilled. And thereafter, everything he taught until his passing away, Parinibbana, for 45 years, he taught what he had fully comprehended. There was no learning process thereafter. So these teachings of the Buddha we learn in that aspect is very unique, that it is complete. It is the wisdom of the Buddha, and it is unrivaled by any other teaching. Because there's nothing more to be added to it. And these teachings you don't find anywhere else in the world. Any other religion, any other books you might read. This is the wisdom of a Buddha. So we are very fortunate that we got the opportunity to learn these teachings of the Buddha. So when you consider of all the things that are external that we comes into contact, we get to associate with, we get to hear, listen. That is why the teaching of the Buddha becomes the foremost, the best. Why? Because it is unique. It is something that you do not find in the world. It is something that is comprehended by the Buddhas only. So that is why Buddha said, of all the things that are external that you listen, hear, the teachings of the Buddha is the foremost. There's nothing that is better. So, but for you to make something out of it, benefit from this teachings of the Buddha, it is very important that you have a certain inner quality within yourself. You should possess that quality. What is that quality you should possess? Okay? What is the inner quality you should possess for you to benefit from the teachings of the Buddha? Someone? Now you will hear the teachings of the Buddha. Now, if you are to benefit from the teachings, you should have this skill. What is that? It is Yoniso Manasikara. Haven't you heard that word? What is Yoniso Manasikara?
Wise consideration.
Wise consideration has to be there, or else you cannot make use of the Dhamma. Because Buddha clearly stated this Dhamma is for the wise, not the unwise. So if you do not have that faculty, that skill, that ability within you, then it's no use. Buddha gave a beautiful simile for this. He said, like just as a spoon that is in a, say there's a spoon in a delicious curry. Can the spoon taste that? No matter how delicious that curry is, can the spoon taste that curry? Can't. It's the same Buddha said, no matter how tasty, how nice, how delicious this Dhamma is, the person without wisdom cannot taste the Dhamma, cannot make use of it. He cannot experience it. He cannot realize it. Why? Because he lacks that skill. What skill? Wise consideration. That is something you have to possess within yourself. Then you can make use of the teachings of the Buddha. So today we are learning a sutta that emphasizes the need for you to have this wise consideration. And also in this sutta, Buddha talks about three things that defile our life. Three things that bring harm, trouble, and much suffering to our life. That is the tense. Have you heard? Asa tense. So the sutta's name is today we're learning Sabbasava Sutta, meaning all the tense. The tense in our life. So this in the middle and discourses of the Buddha, Majjhima Nikaya. So in this sutta, Buddha talks about three types of asaras. Kama asara. I mean, kama asara means taints of sensual pleasure. Bhava asara. That is taints of existence or taints of being. English, you don't come across a proper translation that actually gives the meaning correctly for bhava. So that means bhava is arranging of karma to bear fruit. That is the definition of bhava. So in English, we say just existence or being. So Kamasava, tense of sensual pleasure, Bhavasava, tense of existence, and Avijjasava, tense of ignorance. So in this sutta, Buddha talks about how these three asas affect uh, our lives and how to actually eradicate these taints. Okay, so this is how the Buddha begins the sutta. So in this sutta, it is said, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living in Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. That is when the Buddha addressed the bhikkhus and said, Venerable Sir, so when he addressed, they replied. And Buddha said, Bhikkhus, I shall teach you a discourse on the restraint of all the tames. I will tell you how to restrain the tames ourselves. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say. So the monks replied, Yes, Venerable Sir, we will. So then Buddha begins the sutta. Janato ahang bhikkave passato asavanam kayang vadami. Monks, I say of this the destruction of the taints. For one who knows and sees, janato, one who knows, and passato, one who sees. Only for the person who knows and sees that I say of the destruction of the taints. No ajanato, no apassato. Not for the one who does not know or does not see. Only for the one who knows and sees that I tell of the destruction of the taints. Or else you can't understand, you cannot practice if you don't know and see. So then it is then described, Kincha bhikkave janato king passato asavanam kayo hoti. Who knows and sees what? What should one know and see? Okay? Yonisocha manasikara, ayonisocha manasikara. What should you know and see? Wise consideration and unwise consideration. Wise attention and unwise attention. That means you have to understand what is wise consideration, what is unwise consideration. If you do not understand that, then you cannot practice to destroy the taints. So you should know that how wise consideration benefit you. What are the good results you can achieve through wise consideration, and how unwise consideration can harm your life. That you should understand. So if you do not know the pros and cons of this, the benefits, the advantages, and the disadvantages, then you don't care whether you are practicing wise consideration or unwise consideration. If you know the ups and downs of it, the advantages and disadvantages, how they harm and how can they benefit, how wise consideration benefit you and unwise consideration harms you, then you can practice to destroy the taints. Then Buddha says, when one attains unwisely, if he dwells with unwise consideration, what happens? Unarisen taints arise and arisen taints increase. Unarisen taints means it's like the spirit of our defilements. The mind, it's like the spirit of it. You know, there's greed, anger, and delusion. That the taints are like the spirit of these defilements. So if we consider unwisely, then what happens? Unarisen tense arise. And arisen tense further increases, say the Buddha. When one attends wisely, what happens? Unarisen tense do not arise. And arisen tense are abandoned. There do not arise new tense. And whatever tense there are, they are also abandoned. When you do what? When you attend wisely. When you consider wisely, that happens. If you were to consider unwisely, then unarisen tense arise and arisen tense also further develop. So then Buddha teaches us 7 methods by which we can destroy the tense. That means, in other words, purify our mind by eradicating the tense. 7 methods. So normally when people think of practicing the teachings of the Buddha, they all focus on mainly what? Meditation. They think that is the main tool or only tool in some cases to purify your mind. But in this sutta we learn that is only one way of getting rid of the taints. Here Buddha teaches seven methods. You have to focus on all 7 if you are to eradicate all the taints. So first is the Buddha said, Atti bhikkave asava dassana pahatabba. Because there are taints that should be abandoned by seeing. Here seeing doesn't mean sight, seen through your eyes. Here seen means seen through realization. Dassana pahatabba means there are taints that should be abandoned by realization. You have to realize, or else you cannot abandon those taints. Then atyasava samvara pahatabba. There are taints that should be abandoned by restraining. You have to restrain your senses if you are to abandon those taints. Then Buddha says, Atyasava patisevana pahatabba. There are taints that should be abandoned by using. That means there are taints that should be abandoned by using. Using what? Using while attending wisely. Okay, you should attend to them wisely when you use them. That is how you abandon those states. So we discuss each of these, okay? If you don't understand, these are the I am stating these 7, okay? Atyasava adivasana pahatabba. There are states that should be abandoned by enduring, patiently endure. It is only if you patiently endure that you can abandon those states. Okay? Atyasava parivajjana pahatabba. There are states that should be abandoned by avoiding, by non-association. That is how you get rid of those taints. Atyasava vinodana pahatabba. There are taints that should be abandoned by removing, eradicating. Those taints have to be eradicated. That is how you get rid of them. Atyasava bhavana pahatabba. Then there are taints that should be abandoned by developing factors of enlightenment through calm and insight meditation. That is how you abandon those taints. So the taints that you have to be, so for example, the taints that should be abandoned by enduring with patience, can you abandon them with meditation? You can't. So that is why Buddha talks about each specific 7 methods by which you have to eradicate each of the type of taints. Like these 7 types is discussed. So you have to practice always, all methods. So then Buddha says, so these taints what you should understand is it is good things or bad taints? Are they good or bad? Huh? Is it
Things
good?
are bad.
Taints are bad. They are defilements. Things that make your mind impure.
It's not impure.
So that is why Buddha teaches us that we have to understand they are a danger, they are unbeneficial, that they have to be abandoned. So in the Nibbedika Sutta, Buddha explained characteristic of these asanas. Okay, characteristic of the taints. What are the characteristics? Atti bhikkave asava niregaminya. There are taints that takes you to hell. Atti bhikkave asava tiracchana gaminiya. There are taints that take you to the animal world. Atti bhikkave asava pettivise gaminiya. There are taints that take you to the ghost realm. Atti bhikkave asava manussa loka gaminiya. There are taints that take you to the human world. So that is why you were born here. It is the taints that brought you here. Taints that bring you into the human world. And there are other taints within you as well. Taints that take you to the hell world is still there. Taints that takes you to the ghost world is still there. Taints that take you to the animal world is still there. That is the danger of this life. The taints are still there. So that is why we are always, there is the inclination, the tendency to be born in the bad destination, the planes of misery. So then Atti Bhikkave Asava Deva Loka Gaminiya, taints that take you to the heavenly worlds are also there. So as long as these taints are there, then we see the wandering in the samsara is there. By this birth, the taints take you to each of the birth in accordance of your karma. In accordance with your karma, the taints drag you to each birth. Okay? If you do not have, what happens? Asavakkaya. When you get that, it's a knowledge, no? Knowledge of the destruction of the taints. Then you are an arahant. That is why the arahants are not reborn. Okay. So we discussed now 7 types, methods that you have to practice to abandon the taints. So now we are going to discuss the first method by which you abandon the taints. First method is taints to be abandoned by seeing. That means by realization. Dassana pahatapa. Okay. And Buddha says, what taints bhikshus should be abandoned by seeing? What are the taints that can be abandoned by seeing? And Buddha first say, with regard to this first, you have to recognize Ashrutava Putakjana. That person has to be identified. Ida bhikkave Ashrutava Putakjana. Who's an Ashrutava Putakjana? An untaught ordinary person. Who is that? What are his characteristics? Can someone tell? Ashrutava Putakjana or uninstructed ordinary person? Hmm? Ariyanang Adassavi, no? What does mean? That
He
he,
doesn't see the noble person.
yeah, he has not met the noble ones. He has no regard for the noble ones. Arya Dhammasa Akovido. He is not skilled. He is not clever with regard to the teachings of the noble ones. Arya Dhammi Avinito. He does not discipline himself in the teachings of the noble ones. So that means he is undisciplined in the Dhamma. Sappurisanang Adassavi. He has no regard to the good. Suppose you don't have a proper English translation, the word that actually covers the meaning of Sappurisa. It's just a good person, a person with good qualities. So here Sappurisa Adasai means he has not seen or associated with the Sappurisa, the normal, the good people. So Sappurisa Dhamma Sakovido, he is not skilled in their teachings. And Sappurisa Dhammi Avinito, he has not disciplined himself in the teachings, the Dhamma of the normal ones, the Sappurisa, okay, the good people. So that you have to know first of all. So such a person who has not come across the teachings of the Buddha, who has not heard the teachings of the Buddha by the Buddha himself, or like from the monk, or anyway, he has not come across the teachings of the Buddha. So such a person, here it says, Manasi karaniya dhamme nappajanati. He does not understand what things are fit for attention. He does not understand what are the proper things upon which I should contemplate. He doesn't know what to attend to wisely. He does not understand what things are fit for attention. That he doesn't understand. Amanisikaraniya dhamme nappajanati. And also he does not understand what things are unfit for attention. So there are things that we should think of. There are things we should not think of. So this asatpurisa, the person who has not heard the teachings of the Buddha, untaught ordinary person, he does not understand this. Since that is so, what happens? So manasikaraniye dhamme appajananto, amanasikaraniye dhamme appajananto. He attends to those things unfit for attention, and he does not attend to those things fit for attention. Things that you actually should contemplate upon, he does not attend to them. And things you should not contemplate upon, he thinks upon them. That is what happens. So if what happens thereafter, if you do that, unarisen taints arise. And whatever taints there are, they are further developed. That is the danger there. So then, because Buddha said once, for such a person, Asappurisa, Asutava Putakjano, who has not heard the teachings of the Buddha, an ordinary person, he cannot understand or recognize between the Sappurisa and Asappurisa, the noble and the ignoble person. He cannot discern. Because he himself is Asappurisa, he doesn't know the good person and the bad person. So what does he do? Thinking he is good, he associates with the bad person. And the good person, he abandons him, thinking he is a bad person. Because the Asappurisa doesn't have that faculty, that skill, the ability to discern between the Satpurisa and Asatpurisa. Only a Satpurisa, or noble person, a good person, have the skill to discern this person is Asatpurisa, this person is Satpurisa. Okay. So this person, Asatpurisa, the uninstructed worldling who has not come across the teachings of the Buddha, he does not know what are things fit to attention and things that are unfit for attention. Therefore, what is fit, he does not pursue. What is unfit, he pursues and contemplates upon them. So what are the things unfit for attention that he attends to? What are the things upon he thinks of? There are things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen taints of sensual desire arises in him, and the arisen taint of sensual desire increases. What happens? The taints of sensual pleasure arises within him. And also unarisen taints of existence arises in him. And arisen taints of existence further increases. And unarisen taints of ignorance arises within him. And whatever arisen taints of ignorance further develops. In who? A person who is an uninstructed worldling who has not come across the teachings of the Buddha, who attends unwisely on things that are unfit for attention. Then Buddha says, these are the things unfit for attention that he attends to. What are the things unfit for attention? They are things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen taints of sensual desire does not arise in him, and the arisen taints of sensual desire is abandoned. Okay? The unarisen taints of existence does not arise in him, and the arisen taints of existence is abandoned. The unarisen taints of ignorance does not arise in him, and the arisen taints of ignorance is abandoned. So for such things he unfit for attention, he attends to. So then the taints are further developed within him. So do you understand, like, to get the meaning here? So I think in the case of the Magandhya, there was a very beautiful uh, woman, Magandhya, and her parents wanted to marry her to the most handsome person. And they were wealthy also. And they went, the father and mother, they were seeking for a person because she was she was extremely beautiful, a gorgeous young woman. So they wanted their daughter to have the best husband, the most handsome person. So they had messengers, their servants go all over the place in the country and to find such a person. That is when a person came across the Buddha meditating under a tree. So when you see the Buddha, he's got the 32 marks of a great man, and his beauty surpasses all humans, devas, and brahmas even. There is no one more with a mesmerizing beauty than the Buddha. So when they saw the Buddha, they went to the parents and said, look, we found the person you are looking for. So they quickly dressed her up in the best garments to make her as appealing as possible and took her, the father, mother, and along with the daughter, they went to where the Buddha was in meditation under a tree. And Buddha opened his eyes and they said, okay, this marriage proposal was uh, given to the Buddha. They proposed, would you like to take our daughter's hand in marriage? Then what the Buddha said, I would not even like to touch this body, and he likened the body of this woman to a pot filled with feces. I would not like even touch with my legs even. So that much foulness is there in the body. So that is something Buddha said for them to understand with wisdom. What happened to Magandhya? She attended unwisely upon this, not wisely. She thought she was insulted. No, Buddha talked of the common nature of the body. That was the same nature of the mother, father, and any other person. She thought he told this to me like he insulted me. That is what she thought. To talk it as an insult, didn't see it with wisdom. So what happened therefore? She wanted to have revenge from the Buddha, and she did many bad things to to have revenge with the Buddha. And when she did not succeed, what did she did was she tried to harm people who had faith in the Buddha, like to whatever person, if they have a lot of faith in the Buddha, disciples of the Buddha, she even tried to harm them. There was a case when Samavati, Princess Samavati, uh, she was a disciple of the Buddha, and because Magandhya was angry with the Buddha, to take revenge from the Buddha, she wanted to harm Samavati. And once she, with Samavati and 500 of friends, when they were in a certain hall, she locked all the doors and set fire to that building. And all 500 of them, now they are burning because of the uh, flames, like the fire, and they are dying. but still they didn't attend unwisely. They didn't think or blame Magandhya for what she had done to them. Rather, what did they do? They practiced loving kindness. And though they died, they are burning, they were born having attained fruits of the path in the heavenly worlds. Why? Because they did not attend to things that are unfit for attention. They are unfit for attention would be into think thoughts of ill will towards Magandhya. But they didn't do that. Why? Because they were Sattpurisa. They knew the teachings of the Buddha. So the Dhamma protected them. That is how Dhamma protects a person. And they died, but they were born in the heavenly worlds because they did not give in to anger. They practiced loving kindness even in such very difficult circumstances. So that is wise consideration. So by attending to things unfit for attention and by not attending to things fit for attention, both unnourishing taints arise in him and arising taints increase. So for you to come to develop wise consideration, for a person to develop wise consideration, it is very important that you have mundane right view. That is the solid ground for a person to develop wise consideration. It's easy if you believe in these 10 aspects of mundane right view. Do you remember the 10 aspects? Laukika Sammaditthi. What are the 10 aspects? Someone? These things like you should
That's
remember. Yeah.
that's a result of giving. That's the first one.
Huh? Giving. Okay. That means you should know that there are results of giving, results of offerings, results of service, like when you do a job dutifully. Then there are results in the sense you have good results, merits. Then there are results, merits in attend to your mother, father. There are special persons as mother and father. And then there are fruits of good and bad actions. There's this world and the next world, believing that. So there are beings who are born spontaneous. For you to believe in that, that is also a mundane right view. And to believe that there are in the world good and virtuous recluses and brahmins who have realized for themselves by direct knowledge and declare this world and the other world. So likewise, there are ones who have realized the reality of life and they teach them. And if you believe there are such people in the world, that is the ones who teach you the Dhamma. So then that is having the right view. So then you believe in spontaneous birth means you believe in the hell worlds, because in hell worlds they are spontaneous birth. To be born among the devas, that is also spontaneous birth. So if you do not believe in these things, can you engage in wise consideration? No. If you believe that the mother and father are special people, that is wise, then you have wise consideration, then you have wisdom to believe that there is a life after this and you are reborn according to your own karma. That is your wisdom. So then you know the danger of life, and then you know that you are responsible for your actions. Then you know you have to acquire merits, and you have to not do things that cause you to acquire demerits because you believe in the results of the karma, and you know what you are supposed to do to acquire merits because you know giving benefits to your life. Offering to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha benefits to your life. Doing your whatever job you do in a dutiful manner, diligently, benefits you. You can acquire merits by doing so. So this is all what wise consideration. So then you don't doubt certain things. So then it is easy for you to develop wise consideration in your life. So how does a person dwell in unwise consideration? So if a person does not have wise consideration, if he is an uninstructed worldling who has not come across the teachings of the Buddha, he thinks unwisely in this manner. This is how he attains unwisely, said the Buddha. Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what did I become in the past? Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I be in the future? Having been what shall I become in the future? Or else he is inwardly perplexed about the present. Am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where will it go? So all he has is questions with regard to life, with regard to existence, with regard to the past, with regard to the future, the present, because he is always thinking of a self, the soul, because he has not heard of the dependent origination, the principle of cause and effect. So because why? He has not come across the teachings of the Buddha. And ordinary person, untaught ordinary person. So can he engage in wise consideration with regard to anything in life? He can't. Why? He lacks this understanding. Therefore, he always comes, he always takes up wrong views. He arrives at wrong views. Then Buddha says, when he attains unwisely in this way, one of six views arises in him. When he thinks unwisely in this manner, he then arrives at six views, which are also wrong. The view self exists for me arises in him as true and established. He thinks it is, he wrongfully thinks it is true that a self exists for me. He thinks there is an eternal self. That is what he calls eternalism, which is a wrong view. He thinks there is an eternal soul that passes away from one life to the other. Or the view no self exists for me arises in him and true and as true and established. He thinks no self exists for me. That means that is you think that you cease to exist after this life. That is what? Nihilism. The other extreme. Eternalism and nihilism. Or the view I perceive self itself arises in him as true and established. Again, a wrong view. Or the view I perceive not self itself arises in him as true and established. Or the view I perceive self with not self arises in him as true and established. Or else he has some such view as this. It is this self of mind that speaks and feels and experiences here and there the result of good and bad actions. But the self of mind is permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to damage, not subject to change, and it will endure as long as eternity. This all happens when you fail to see the conditioned phenomena. When you are unaware of the causality in life, when you have not heard of the dependent originated nature of the life. So then you take up wrong views like this. So this speculative view, because is called the thicket of views, the wilderness of views, the contortion of views, the vacillation of views, the fetter of views. Fettered by the fetter of views, the untaught ordinary person is not freed from rebirth, aging and death, from sorrow, lamentation, praying, grief, and despair. He is not freed from suffering. See, when you have not come across the teachings of the Buddha, all you are left with is unwise consideration. You can't attain wisely to anything because you always see things through a self. You think there's a soul in you, and you fail to see the conditioned phenomena in life. Then you have all these questions that you cannot find answers to. And because of this conundrum you find yourself in, then you take up manifold wrong views. And you'll get here, look, Buddha says some night dress, no, he is lost in the thicket of views, the wilderness of views, the contortion of views, the vacillation of views. Then how can he free himself from the samsaric journey? All is left with is what? Aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, and grief, over and over again. So until you come across the teachings of the Buddha, that is what? That's the predicament. So then Buddha says about the Suttava Arya Savako, the noble disciple. Suttavachako bhikkave Arya Savako Aryanang dassavi Arya Dhammas kovido Arya Dhamme suvinito. So Bhikkhu is a well-taught noble disciple who has regard for the noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard for true men and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma. So the Sappurisa person, okay? What happens in that case? How does he attend? He thinks wisely, no? Manasikaraniye dhammi pajanati. And he understands what things are fit for attention. He understands. Amanisikaraniye dhammi pajanati. And what things are unfit for attention. He understands. So manasikaraniye dhamme pajananto, amanisikaraniye dhamme pajananto, ye dhamma na manasikaraniya te dhamme na manasikaroti, ye dhamma manasikaraniya te dhamme manasikaroti. So things that is, so he does not attend to those things unfit for attention, and he attends things that are fit for attention. So he has the wisdom. He knows what are the things I should ponder upon, what are the things I should not ponder upon. He knows with wisdom. Therefore, what happens in him? What are the things unfit for attention that he does not attend? There are things, such things that when he attends to them, the unreasoned taints of sensual desire arises. If there are certain things, when you attend to them, unreasoned taints of sensual pleasure arises. Unreasoned taints of existence arises. Unreasoned taints of ignorance arises. He does not attend to them. So whatever things that defile your mind, you should not attend to them. And what are things fit for attention that he attends to? There are things that when he attends to them, the unreasoned taint of sensual desire does not arise. Okay? Now when you attend to a Dhamma talk, does that happen? That unreasoned taints of sensual desire, do they arise? Unreasoned taints of existence, unreasoned taints of ignorance, they do not arise. These are the things for fit for attention that he attends to. So likewise, the wise person who has come across the teachings of the Buddha, he knows what to do in the life, what to not do. What are the things you should think of? What are the things you should not think of? What are the things that defile your mind? What are the things that cleanse your mind? What are the things that fuel or develop the taints? And what are the things that eradicate the taints? So this way you know how to restrain yourself with regard to each and every aspect you come across in life. You have to restrain your senses and think, is this a good thing I should listen to? Is this the thing I should hear? Is this something I should pay attention to? Is this something I should pursue? Likewise. That you should understand with wisdom. So there was a case where Buddha, with his divine eye, he saw that monks, maybe newly ordained monks, living in the monastery, he saw that they were thinking unwisely, unwholesome thoughts. Buddha saw it with his divine eye. So Buddha came there and they also engaged in idle chatter. So Buddha asked, monks, what were you talking before I arrived here? They said, we were talking useless things. So they were truthful. Then Buddha said, it is not proper for you to have given up the household life to have now become a monk and still think such thoughts of sensual pleasure, thoughts of ill will, thoughts of harm. You should not harbor such thoughts, Buddha advised them. And you should not engage in idle chatter. If you want to think upon a thing, you should always contemplate and attend wisely on the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of cause of suffering, the noble truth of cessation of suffering, the noble truth of path leading to the cessation of suffering. In this way, Buddha advised. Like even the time of the Buddha, there are times when people, though had even they had ordained the Buddha's dispensation, they were living in the same monastery as the Buddha, but they lost their way. So Buddha corrected them. So these are things you should not pay attention to. Likewise, in our life also, we should discipline ourselves in this manner. Because you know now you are wise enough because you have heard the teachings of the Buddha, you know what are the things that defile your mind. Because you know what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. Then you know this is not the only life. And whatever things you do in this life will affect your next rebirth. You know that, and you know of the pains of misery because you have the mundane right view, Laukika Sammaditthi, and you believe in the results of the karma. And then if you contemplate according to the teachings of the Buddha, if you have Shraddha, faith in the teachings of the Buddha, when you engage in a thing that whatever action that defiles your mind, that develop the taints, that nourish the taints, then you should mindfully understand this is something I should not pursue. This is something I should not attend to. So then what happens? That taints will not grow within you. Taints of sensual pleasure, taints of existence, taints of ignorance, they will not fruit. They will not have nourishment. Then gradually you are able to abandon them over time. So that you have to understand in this way. So you should not attend to things that fuel the hindrances, the taints. By not attending to things unfit for attention, and by attending to things fit for attention, unarisen taints do not arise in him, and arisen taints are abandoned. So it says here, what should you attend to? So idan dukkhanti yoniso manasikaroti, ayan dukkha samudayoti yoniso manasikaroti. Wisely think of the suffering, wisely think this is the cause of suffering. That are the things you should attend to. Ayam dukkha nirodhoti yoniso manasikaroti. This is the cessation of suffering. You have to think, focus on that. You have to attend wisely to that. Ayam dukkha nirodhagamini patipadati yoniso manasikaroti. Likewise, you have to think how he attends wisely. This is suffering. He attends wisely. This is the origin of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the cessation of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. When he attends wisely in this way, three fetters are abandoned in him. Now what happened? Three fetters are abandoned in him. What are the fetters? Personality view,
View,
doubt, and
adherence
adherence
to
to
rules,
rules and
observances.
observances. Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikiccha, Silabhata, Paramasa. These are abandoned in you. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by seen with wisdom. Realization. Dassana Pahatabba. Okay? So you abandon personality view, doubt, and adherence to rules and observance. These fetters are, these taints are abandoned. By what? Dassana Pahatabba. The first method, no? So realizing the Dhamma, that is what to attain the first fruition of the path, stream entry, becoming a Sotapana disciple. So that's come with what? Attending to wisely, with wise consideration. If you don't have that skill, then it is clear you can't progress in the noble path. Okay, that is the first method by which you you abandon the taints. So in this way, you can get rid of the first three fetters. Taints to be abandoned by restraining. Okay, restraining means sense restraint. Okay, khatamete bhikkave asava sangvara pahatabba. Sangvara, restraint. Asava to be abandoned to restraint. Ida bhikkave bhikkhu patisanka yonuso chakkundriyassa sanguto huyarati. What does that mean? Here a bhikkhu reflects wisely, abides with the eye faculty restraint. Okay, you have to restrain your eye faculty. Yang hissa bhikkave chakkundiyasa sangvara asangutassa viharato upajjayuang asava vigata parilaha chakkundriya sangvara sangutassa viharato evansate asava vigata parilaha nahonti. Which means when you restrain your eye faculty. Okay? And you here Bhikkhu reflecting wisely abides with the eye faculty restraint. While taints of vexation. So when you restrain your, say, we are focusing on the eye at the moment, okay? When you restrain eye, with regard to the eye, taints of vexation, that means taints that would cause worry, irritation, anger in your life, and fever, that means create confusion and turmoil in your life, might arise in one who abides with the eye faculty unrestrained. There are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who abides with the eye faculty restrained. So whatever hardships, calamities, suffering that may come across to your life, if you unrestrain your eyes by restraint, you can abandon all of that. Then there is no worry, irritation, anger, that confusion of actually seeing things without restraining your eye faculty. Because with the eye, you can see things that give rise to the wholesome and the unwholesome. Don't we come across in life that do both this? When you see a certain thing and when lust arises with you, is that a good thing? Is that a thing you have to keep looking at? No. If you see a certain thing and anger arises within you, is that something you have to say or see over and over again? If you are deluded by something, if certain taints arise within you and further develops, do you have to keep seeing that? No, you have to restrain your eye faculty. Then all the suffering that would have been there because of unrestraint of that particular sense is abandoned. So for a wise person, isn't this something he can do for himself? By mindfully seeing, okay, if I pursue this, if I keep looking at this without restraining my eye, my mind gets polluted. And the taints will be developed. And the taints will drag me to hell worlds, the animal world, the ghost world. Because the taints are there. When your eye faculty is unrestrained at that given moment, you are nourishing the taints that would drag you to the hell world, animal world, the ghost world. So that's the danger there. So because now what are things now we see forms, we see books. You can't do read books that make lust arouse in your mind. You can. Can't you watch things that give rise to lust? You can. Can't you read things in the papers that make you angry? You can. And you see, like when you go on Facebook and you see things that cause you defilements in your mind, don't you? On social media, this happens. So you have to avoid these things without pursuing these. So there are things that you have to think, these are things I should not see from my eyes. These are things I should see. So you should see, read Dhamma books, look videos like of the Dhamma service. These are good things that you should pursue with your eyes. And if you see a monk, and if you are able to have a pleasant state of mind, you are happy, you're delighted to see a monk. Buddha said at that moment you are acquiring a certain karma that will bring about rebirth in the heavenly worlds. Just the sight of a monk. If you are pleased by that sight, then that constitute, that creates karma for good rebirth. So these are things you should pursue. So reflecting wisely, he abides with the ear faculty restraint. With regard to the ear also, he has to restrain the ear faculty. He should know what things I should listen to, what are things I should not listen to. Likewise, you have to restrain your faculty, the eye faculty, ear faculty. Because in the case where the Devadatta, he taught Dhamma to the newly ordained monk and said, I know the shortcut, come with me, I will teach you the Dhamma. So they were listening to the not the true teachings. But because they were listening to them, Buddha saw that their taints, unnourishing taints were arising within them. And whatever taints there were in them, they were developing. So Buddha to Sariputta and Moggallana is go quickly save them. Why? Because they were listening to something they should not listen to. They were listening to the Devadatta. What happened when Ajasatta, King Ajasatta listened to Devadatta? He ended up killing his own father. And the Tains dragged him straight away where? To hell. Why? It is a heinous act to kill your father. He fell to that state because of what? He did not restrain his ear. Like he heard, listened to something that he should not have listened. So that is why with regard to yourself, when you also learn the Dhamma, you should learn the Dhamma that because you listen to, there are many videos, Dhamma talks online. So you should see whether these are things, the actual teaching of the Buddha or someone else's personal opinions. If they are personal opinions, is there any value there? No. If it is the teachings of the Buddha, then those are the things you should listen to, the true Dhamma. So the nose faculty, you have to restrain. The tongue faculty, you have to restrain. There's a case I remember that is something that happened in Sri Lanka. A person, he was very greedy for meat. He was addicted to meat. He could not eat anything without if there was not meat there. So one day he came home. So every day his wife would cook him something meat, like some meat, some type of meat, or else he would not eat. So that day there was nothing to be cooked. So he got angry. So he went out. There was a cow. So they reared cow maybe. Somehow there was a cows in the house. He straight away went there, pulled out the tongue of the cow and cut it. And brought it in and gave it to the wife. Okay, cook this. She's very scared of him. What to do? See, because he's a drunkard also. She cooked for him the tongue. The moment he was see the pain of the cow, and from the moment when you think if your tongue was pulled out and cut off like that, so the moment he took the plate to eat the meat, his tongue fell out. This is something that happened in Sri Lanka. Then and there his tongue fell out. Karma. Ditta Dhamma Vedini karma. Karma that bears fruit in this very life. They said the Sutta, no, that's what happened. So why he didn't restrain his tongue faculty? Gluttony is something that you should not have in life because it creates a lot of bad karma. So you have to be moderate in your eating. You should know why you consume food. So gluttony is something you should not have. Greediness you should abandon. That is why you have to restrain the tongue faculty and you have to restrain the body faculty. So if you engage in sexual misconduct, is that restraining the body faculty? No. That is why take up that precept. Because there is pleasure in sexual misconduct. Isn't there pleasure? There is pleasure. But what happens? The taints grow and they drag you to hell worlds and they drag you to places for you to suffer. Do you remember the story of Pisidasia, Arahantna Pisidasia? She became an Arahant and she recollected her past lives. And she said of the past karma, bad karma, evil karma she had done. And I have the verses here. This is how she said. I can recollect my last 7 births, she says. The pain I have been experienced was the result of an evil action done by me in those past lives. I will explain it to you. Please listen attentively because in her life she suffered a lot. 7 lives ago, so she's now become an Arhat and she's talking about the past life. 7 lives ago in the city of Erakacha, I was a wealthy goldsmith. So he was a young man, okay, handsome young man. Now it's a lady in this life, but that life he was a young man. I was a wealthy goldsmith, intoxicated by my pride and my youth. I engaged in sexual misconduct with the wives of others. So he was a womanizer. When I passed away from that life, I immediately fell into hell. I was boiled in hell for a long time. Once I escaped from the life in hell, I was reborn in the womb of a female monkey. Next slide. 7 days after my birth, an elder monkey, the leader of the herd, castrated me. This was the result of that evil action of seducing the wives of others. Okay? I passed away from that life and I was reborn in the womb of a one-eyed lame female goat in the Sindha forest. She was born in the womb of a goat. There too I was castrated because goats are also castrated. I walked for 12 years carrying kids on my back. My wound was worm infested. What wound? There was a wound found when she was castrated, that goat. My wound was worm infested and the disease worsened. This was the result of that evil action of seducing the wives of others. So no leniency with regard to the karma, no respite. Again and again he had to suffer. I passed away from that life and was reborn in the womb of a cow belonging to a cattle dealer. I was a reddish calf. In the 12th month after my birth, I was castrated because cows are also castrated. I plowed the earth, dragging a heavy plow and pulling a heavy cart. I became blind and diseased. This was the result of that evil action of seducing the wives of others. So you see, this is engaging in sexual misconduct. That is why Buddha says, restrain your body. Okay, that is with regard to, there is one thing. Like there are other things, you do evil things with your body, no? Stealing, killing, all this, that is not restraining your body. So you have to in this way restrain, or else you are fueling the tates that because he acquired a lot of bad karma. This person, he in that life as the merchant, no goldsmith, because he was intoxicated by pride in his youth. He was a young, handsome young man that day, in that life. And maybe few hours of pleasure, few days, years of pleasure, but throughout the samsara, he suffered a lot because he had fueled the taints, kamastra, bhavastra, avidyastra. So with the mind faculty also, you have to restrain the mind faculty. Likewise, that means what are things you should think and should not think. So so then when you restrain in this taints of vexation, fever might arise in one who abides with the faculties unrestrained. These these taints will not arise within you when you restrain your faculties. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by restraining. Sangvara pahatabba. Okay. There's a Dhamma Pada verse. No, you have heard the Chakuna Sangaro Sadhu. Sadhu Sotena Sangaro. Ganena Sangaro Sadhu. Sadhu Divaya Sangaro. Restrain in the eye is good. Good is restrained in the ear. Restrained in the nose is good. Good is restrained in the tongue. Kayena Sangaro Sadhu Sadhu Achaya Sangaro. Manasa Sangaro Sadhu. Sadhu Sabbat Sangaro. Sabbat Sangaro Bhikkhu. Sabba Dukkha Pamuchati. Restraint in body is good. Good is restraint in speech. Restraint in mind is good. Good is restraint in all the senses. A bhikkhu restrained in all the senses is freed from all suffering. See how nice, how beautiful and clear are the teachings of the Buddha. So if we restrain our senses, then we can free ourselves from suffering. So now we discuss taste that has to be abandoned to realization. Dassana pahatabba. Then sangvara pahatabba, taste that have to be abandoned through restraint. Now we are going to discuss taste to be abandoned by using wisely. Okay. Uh, how much time do we have?
It's 9:24 p.m. Bante.
Yes.
For us.
How much time do you have?
Uh,
Half an hour?
um, if is anyone else? Half an hour,
Maybe.
maybe.
Okay. Okay. So we'll see. So tends to be abandoned by using. Okay. Third aspect. Katamecha bhikkave asava patisevana pahatabba. Okay. Either way, either big what so patisevana pahatibba means like by using. Okay. So either bhikkave bhikkhu, this is more regard to the monks, but still equally applicable to the lay people as well. Either bhikkave bhikkhu patisanka yoniso chivaram patisevati. Okay. What takes bhikkhu should be abandoned by using. Okay, by using properly with wisdom. Okay, here a bhikkhu reflecting while wisely uses the robe only for protection from cold, for protection from heat, for protection from contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, the sun, and creeping things, and only the purpose of concealing the private part. So that is the purpose of wearing the robe for monks. So that's why I say Pajavadeva Sitasya Patigataya, Unnasya Patigataya for the cold, for the heat, Dansamaka Savata Tapasirin Sava Sampasanam Patigataya to protect you for insect and creatures. Patigataya Yavadev Hirikopin Patichadananta. So for the purpose of concealing the private parts. So this is the purpose with regard to monk for using the robes. So in your life is also there's a purpose for wearing clothes. So it says no here to conceal your private parts. That's your purpose also, not to reveal yourself. Okay, it's to conceal yourself, to discipline yourself. And also with regard to women, what has Buddha said? There's a nice simile with regard to women. The Dhamma shines when the Dhamma is revealed. So a woman's eyes shines when what happens? When she is concealed. Like you don't have revealed yourself to look beautiful. The more concealed you are, that is when you shine. So there's a like that in that way also we have to understand. You don't have to have a wardrobe full of clothes to live one life. No? So you have to understand why I am wearing these clothes. What is the purpose of it? So then then whatever the hours you have to spend in shopping malls looking for all the other new dresses, the new designs and all that, and the hours you have to put in to earn for that matter to spend extra money for buying these things. That is all saved for you. So this unearned tails with regard to that does not arise within you. So that is a huge help for life for a practitioner of the teachings. So, so in this way, that is with regard to what to wear. Then patisanka also pindapatang patisevati. Because we learned for the incident of where a monk, he did not contemplate wisely of the robes. So he got a new robe and he thought, okay, I'm going to wear this tomorrow. And he put it on the clothes line and he went to sleep. So he had a desire to wear the new robe next day, but unfortunately he died that day. And what happened? That monk was born as a clothesmith in the robe. See? And Buddha said, don't take that robe until 7 days pass. Because Buddha, with his divine eye, divine ear, heard that monk, he saw with the divine eye that he had born as a clothesmith, and with the divine ear, Buddha saw that he was calling out, what belongs to me is going to be taken. I am being robbed. Because the other monks are going to take the robe. That's what happens when a monk passes away. The whatever belongs, whatever is, and we don't have much. No, we have the alms bowl and the robes that belongs to the sangha. So in the monks went to take that, he was crying out, "What belongs to me is taken. I am being robbed." So Buddha heard this. It's divine and said, "Don't take monks until 7 days." Because Buddha saw for 7 days that karma is there. Had they tried to take the rope, then because of his anger, he will straight away being reborn in hell. But after 7 days, he was born in Tusita heaven because he was a virtuous monk who had diligently tried to practice the noble path, but he made the mistake. What was the mistake? He did not contemplate wisely why I used the rope. The purpose of it had lost on him. This is like you have to understand the mind quickly get to attach to things. For you also this can happen, not only for monks. Any whatever thing you are attached to, there is an instant like the incident that happened. Okay, this person, uh, okay, his wife, he was rather old, this person. His wife had cooked him some food and he said, okay, I have cooked you some rice and these curries. I will now go and bring you some rice. So now when you say this is right, these are the curries. Now the picture comes to your mind now, and instantly you attach. And you are waiting for your wife to bring you the uh, plate of rice with the curries. But when she had come before she could return, in between he died, that person. Unfortunately, he died. But he had the desire, he was intent upon having that food. And he was born in the gospel. Later on, he possessed one of the family members and he said, he asked for the exact food and curry. This is what I want. Because now see how we get attached to things. It can happen to any one of us. We don't know how this consciousness fares on to another life according to the karma, according to that, because that is the nature of consciousness. So now he wanted to have the same rice and curry, but as a ghost, can you have that? You can't have. Only you can have merits. So now is possessed in another being and he want to have the same. You give it to him and he eats. Hey, it is like you eat something in a dream. Does it quench your hunger? Like, does it help your hunger if you eat something in a dream? The best food ever? No. Once you get up, you are still hungry. It's the same feeling for a ghost. Though they want the rice and curry like that, if we asked, the only thing you can do is offer dana to the sangha and share the merits. Then they get food in that life. That's how it happens. That's the only way you can pass on food to them. You have to share merit with them. Then they can have food. So likewise, you have to, with regard to food also, you have to understand why. That is why when you have seen in the monks, before they have dana, we say patisankayana so pindapatam patisevami neva davayana madayana mandanayana vibhusanaya yavadeva imasakaya. So likewise we say in Pali. That is contemplating wisely on the food, which means reflecting wisely. He uses alms food neither for amusement nor for intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the endurance and continuance of this body, for ending discomfort, and for assisting the life of a monk. And he considers, thus I shall terminate all feelings without arousing new feelings, and I shall be healthy and blameless and shall live in comfort, for the living comfort. So you don't feel the pain of hunger. So that is why you consume food for the practice only. So that is how you also should think with regard to the food. So next part with regard to the uh, your kuti, or where you live, your house. So reflecting wisely, he uses the resting place only for protection from cold. Yavadeva sītassa patigataya. Unhassa patigataya, dansamaksa vatātapa, siddhinsapa sampassana patigataya. Like to protect you from cold, from heat, for protection from contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, the sun, and other insects, and all only for the purpose of warding off the perils of climate and for enjoying retreat. So that there is a place for you to peacefully practice the teachings of the Buddha, live a spiritual life. And in your case also, you should not only be attached to these things in your life, because we know many people are born in the same houses because they are attached as ghosts, and they stand in corners of the houses, and from time to time sometimes they get possessed. They possess others and they ask for things, they make them suffer. Likewise, there are a lot of suffering for yourself and others as well if you do not understand these things. You do not train your mind in a way that you do not get attached to these things, because all of these things one day you have to leave them behind. You can't take you with them. That you have to understand. So then with regard to medicine also, we have to reflect wisely. The why I this with regard to marks again, why I consume, like even when you sick, you get medication. So okay, you get cured and you can practice, continue your practice. Because some people when they get sick, all their life is about what? Medicine. And they become a doctor after time because they are always thinking about the medication, think about the various new types of meditation. Likewise, medication. Likewise, they after some time they become doctors themselves. To that extent, they got involved. They think so much of their life. But what should you think? This is the nature of the body, rather. It is subject to sickness, subject to suffering, that you have to understand. Then you do not get, or else all your life you will keep medicating. Even for the smallest of sickness, you will go to the doctor. It would be more mental thing than physical thing. So likewise, you just take the medication, then you move on with your life. That's what you have to do. In the verses of Arhan Sariputta, there are some nice comments with regard to how, statements with regard to how he thought about this consumption of the four requisites. Here he says, reflecting wisely. These are versions of Arhan Sariputta. Reflecting wisely, he uses the medicinal requisites only for protection from arisen afflicting feelings and for the benefit of good health. Uh, so I remember in the in those Arhan Sariputta, he said, yeah, he said whether the food he eats is moist or dry, he doesn't overeat with regard to food. Okay, whether the food he eats is moist or dry, he doesn't overeat. He doesn't mind whether it's moist or dry. He eats moderately. He keeps some empty space in his stomach. You don't have a stomach full. Like you know how much. You keep some space. A monk should eat mindfully, knowing the limit. That is how a monk should live. Without eating the last 4 or 5 mouthfuls, he should fill his stomach with water. So you have to keep space for 4 or 5 mouthfuls, and for that amount you have to consume water. This leads to the comfort of a monk who is diligent in reaching Nibbana. Because when you have a lot of food, what happens? Then you become sleepy thereafter. Then you can't meditate. He should wear an allowable robe just to cover the private parts of his body. This leads to the comfort of a monk who is diligent in reaching Nibbana. Then he says, as he sits for meditation, as long as his knees don't get wet from the rain, such a hut will do for a monk. That's all you need for a kuti. So if your knees don't get wet from the rain, so that amount small space enough. This leads to the comfort of a monk who is diligent in reaching Nibbana. So when you contemplate in this manner with regard to the four requisites, what happens? The unarisen taints do not arise within you. Whatever arisen taints there are, they gradually abandon. Okay, then taints to be abandoned by enduring with patience. What are they? What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by enduring? Here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely bears cold and heat, hunger and thirst, and contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, the sun, and creeping things. He endures ill-spoken, unwelcome words. So you have to endure this patience. If you get angry, when you don't get the food at the right moment, if you get angry when there's too much of heat, if it's too much cold, so this is with regard to your life as well. No? There are times when you are exposed to extreme heat, sometimes extreme cold. If you get worked up because of this, sometimes you would not have your meals at the proper time for some reason. Your parents maybe they fail to cook in time. If you like for some instance, if there is someone cooking for you. So whatever the circumstances, if you are to be hunger and thirst, if you can't endure that with patience, if you get worked up, if you get angry, then unreasoned taints arise within you. And even a mosquito, when you are meditating, then can make you upset, you get angry if a mosquito comes and disturbs you. So you have to patiently endure that. So that is, then that those taints do not arise within you. And you have to endure ill-spoken, unwelcome words. People might blackguard you, scold you, abuse you. But you have to patiently endure, says the Buddha. There was a nice incident once. A Brahmin came and scolded Buddha. He just approached him and began to scold. Why? One of his relatives had gotten ordained. He was very upset with the Buddha because the Brahmins, they have their own religion. No? And to hear that one of his own relatives had ordained with the Buddha, he got furious. So he went to the Buddha and began to scold him. So Buddha listened patiently and he said, his name was Akkosaka, the Brahmin's name. So Akkosaka Bharadwaja. So Buddha said, Brahmin, so do your relatives, your friends come to your house? He said, yes. So when they come to you, do you treat them? Do you give them food, beverages and all that? He said, yes. So what if they refuse them, if they do not eat what you give? Then he said, I have them for myself. So Buddha said, likewise, the things you have told me, I do not accept any of this. So it belongs to you. I am not a person who shares with others, Buddha said. So if you retaliate when a person scolds at you, if you get angry with the person who is angry, if you scold a person who is scolding you, what are you doing? You are sharing, said the Buddha. I am a person who do not share, said the Buddha. That's a nice way to think of it, no? So do not share when you hear ill-spoken, unwelcome words. Patiently endure. So because then you are also acquiring bad karma. Let him acquire his share. Let him do his thing and he will have to bear that. Should have, say, compassion towards him because he acts in that way because he has not heard the teachings of the Buddha or because he is not mindful, because he is not wise enough. That is the reason. So you should have compassion, loving kindness towards them. So if you also get angry, then you are sharing. Then that person has truly affected you. If you do not, if you are indifferent towards his wrath, then what happens? Then okay. And recent bodily feelings that are painful, racking, sharp, piercing, disagreeable, distressing, menace into life. That means when you get really sick, still you have to endure with patience. If you get like you are in hospital, say, you never know how you would have to die. Maybe they have tubes, you would be in the ICU with tubes in your nose or respirator. So likewise, then you would be very in great physical pain. But you can't do nothing about. If you get angry towards the doctors and nurses for doing this to you, they're doing a good thing to you. But because of the pain, you don't want to endure that. If you can't patiently endure that pain, if you get angry towards them, then you are the one losing. Then what if you die in such an instance? Will your rebirth be a good one? No. So that is why you have to practice to patiently endure. So that you have to remember. Why? So then you are safe. So patience is the greatest virtue, said the Buddha. That is something you should have in your life, practice throughout your life. You should patiently endure cold, heat, hunger, thirst, and unwelcome, ill-spoken words, and also pain. So that is tends to be abandoned by enduring. Tends to be abandoned by avoiding. Tends to be abandoned by avoiding. What are tends that should be abandoned by avoiding? What tends bhikkhu should be abandoned by avoiding? Here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely avoids a wild elephant, a wild horse, a wild bull, a wild dog, a snake, a stump, a bramble patch, a chasm, a cliff, a cesspit, a sewer. So likewise, because those days monks would go for alms, they drilled in forests. All uh, these dangers are there. So you have to wisely like avoid them. You should not take the same route they take. Like if you think I am a virtuous monk, I practice loving kindness, nothing happens to me, and you take the same path taken by the uh, say a wild elephant or a wild horse, a wild bull, what happens? You get killed. So that is not a wise way to live your life. You have to avoid those creatures. So likewise in your life, there are certain circumstances, dangerous circumstances you find yourself in. People you should not associate with. You should avoid such situations. Or else what happens? You're going to fall in trouble. That is why you have to use your wisdom. Say it can be a workplace. If something bad is going on there, something illegal is going there. If you can get a transfer, you should get a transfer and move up, move on. Being there can cause you great harm. That you should avoid. You should not be in places like you should not be in like nightclubs and things. At night times, you should not roam in the streets. These are not good places to be. So these are things that cause harm and danger to your life. So these you have to avoid, said the Buddha. Reflecting wisely, he avoids sitting on unsuitable seats, wandering to unsuitable resorts, and associating with bad friends, since if he were to do so, wise companions in the holy life might suspect him of evil conduct. So you should be mindful who you associate with, whether they are good people to associate with. What are their doings? How do they conduct their lives? You should know these things. If not, you also fall into trouble because of their own deals. So in this way, you should know who to associate with, who to not associate with. And if there are danger, if there is an impending danger, you should not be there. There was a case like when there were, say, the terrorism in Sri Lanka, the LTT, there was a family who were living in Jaffna, and this family, there was I think 3 children and father and mother, husband and wife. So they were living in Jaffna for quite a long time, and they heard the following, like the neighboring villages were attacked by the LTT. So they felt their village will also be attacked. So the wife said, let's leave this place because surely our village also will be attacked and we will also be killed. But the husband did not listen. He said, okay, I've been here for many years. I have this property, I have that property. How can I leave? And I am friendly with these people. They won't harm me. Likewise, he was thinking in that manner. He wasn't think wisely because of his attachment to the property and the land, or whatever possessions he had there. So anyway, the wife, together with the children, they left. Father stayed behind. Next day, the LTT came and they killed him. They butchered him actually with a sword. So that's what he died. Why? Because he did not avoid a situation that should have been avoided. So that taints, it's a taints that were beating you. They killed you because of that. So such things have to be abandoned by what? Avoiding. So in this way, there are two more things to discuss. I think we have run out of time, no? So maybe we'll discuss them next week. Okay. So do you have any questions?
Yes, Bhakti.
Yes. And there is one question here, Bante. When we buy new clothes, should we also wait 7 days before wearing them? In this way, it will contain overspending perhaps. You don't have to like wait 7 days, like you just mindfully use them, like in the sense that this is the purpose of wearing this. Like if you can think from time to time, not get all attached to them. So because like that is strong attachment, desire, and like if you then you know now when you are attached strong, if you are mindful, you can know for yourself when you are only attached to a thing. Then you have to think wisely. Okay, this cloth. What is more? What matters more? A cloth, your next rebirth, or purifying your mind. Think of the danger of this attachment, the sansaric journey. Like how much we have suffered because of these things. You never know how much suffering we have gone through because of these defilements. How many times, like in the case of Pisidasia, we may have engaged in sexual misconduct, like we have actually. Because Buddha said, when you see a person, think, I have also been in this way in the past. That is very true because we have been in this sansaric journey for many, many lives. It's not our first life. So surely we have done all these things because Buddha said, no, we have engaged like there's a sutta that say where because you have been robbers, because you have been womanizers, you've been caught and you were beheaded, and the blood that was shed in each instance were more than the waters of the four great oceans. So we have been in such situation. So that is the nature of the sansaric journey that you have to understand and restrain yourself. Okay. Anyone else?
Bante, I have a question here.
Yeah.
So we mentioned about things to be abandoned by using wisely. So one of them is using medicine properly for good health, for curing illnesses. Now, what happens if there's a kind of medicine that is, let's say, yeah, it's medicinal marijuana. Okay, so we know the fact that sometimes there is the effect, the dependency using it over and over again. However, that medicine, the marijuana, would cure the illness. Is it should we continue to use it or abandon it?
Well, as I know, very small amounts, like in indigenous medicine particularly, is added for creating like when you make certain medicines, a small type of these drug related stuff are added. So there are measures. So with regard even in Sri Lanka, with regard to people who doctors who practice indigenous medicine, there are certain amounts that you are allowed to keep it in your possession, even as a doctor. So then you can add that this much to prepare that medicine. In that aspect, it's okay, not as a standalone treatment. So there, as my understanding, it is used with to mix up with other things, and that is accepted in that manner. So that's okay. Not like
Ban- but Bante, but if it's prescribed by the doctor, that it has to be that amount, which
yeah,
eventually might be dependent in the long run.
which might.
Well, that person may be addicted to it because of that amount, but it was prescribed.
Uh, I am not sure. Like the circumstances can vary, but like if it is prescribed by your doctor, like if it's a medicine it's okay, but if you personally feel you are getting addicted to that, then you should stop. That's a personal issue. Like if you take it, like if you are still cured and still taking that thing for the purpose of getting high, then there's a problem there, no? Something you have to think for yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Bante.
There are some questions here. One moment in the chat. How do you control negative thoughts? So negative, like say unwholesome thoughts, is when you have to be mindful and you mindfully understand this is a thought that is unwholesome. If you are not mindful, then you can't discern whether it's a good or bad thought. You mindfully understand, and then you arouse effort to abandon that mindful, that unwholesome or negative thought. Then you should know ways and means to abandon the unwholesome thought. If it is anger, then you should know why anger arose within you. And Buddha has taught us anger arises within us because of two reasons. What is that? The cause, the thing, the sign, whatever thing that caused gave rise to anger, and unwise consideration. If you abandon either of these two aspects, then anger subsides. If it is lust, why does lust arise within you? Lust arises because of a sign, a subha nimitta, a pleasant object. Then you unwise consideration. Unwise consideration means you think of it being pleasant, think of being permanent, think it of being that derives happiness. But in fact, it is something impermanent. It is foul in nature. It changes. Likewise. Then what happens? Lust subsides. Likewise, you should have some Dhamma knowledge for you to abandon the unwholesome state. So that is why if you continue to uh, listen to these Dhamma talks, you will learn. We discuss with Takasantana Sutta, there are 5 ways by which you can abandon the unwholesome states in the mind. Likewise, if you keep learning, then you can understand how to get rid of these negative thoughts. First, you have to have mindfulness, because then only you can discern whether this is good or bad, and then you have to apply the teachings of the Buddha by which you can abandon that unwholesome state. So next question, Bhante, could you please explain how to understand the difference between desire for sensual pleasure and desire for protecting ourselves from heat, cold, mosquitoes? Desire for sensual pleasure is, so okay, with regard to, that means the desire for sensual pleasures means desire for present, agreeable forms, sounds, tastes, tangibles. Okay, 5, no? Forms, sounds, tastes. Did I miss anything? What did I miss? Forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and tangibles. 5 codes of sensual pleasure. So heat, cold, and mosquitoes would fall into, say, what? Would fall into maybe tangible, no? Unpleasant touch. So that touch becomes unpleasant because we have a general inclination for the pleasant nature of the touch, no? So whatever feeling that they arises because of contact, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, they are all conditioned. They are arisen because of contact. So if you can contemplate about that, when there is a pleasant contact, then there's a pleasant feeling. When there's an unpleasant contact, then there's an unpleasant feeling. So then you can develop a state of indifference towards feeling itself. So then you can patiently endure heat, cold, mosquitoes, anything. So because within ourselves there is a desire for the pleasant feeling, we always seek that. But in reality, we always do not get that what we want. So that is why there is the irritation of the mind. The mind get agitated, you get upset when you feel heat, cold, mosquitoes, or whatever unpleasant feeling, any form, when you experience that. So if you are, that is why Buddha said of the pleasant feeling, you should think of it as being uh, What did this Buddha says? Pleasant feeling you have to think as something that causes you suffering. Unpleasant feeling should be thought at a spike that is pricked in you. And of the neutral feeling, you should think of it being impermanent. That is how you should think with regard to the three types of feeling. So the question is how to understand the different. It's there, actually there's a subtle. You see, there is a tangible. So there is a similarity, and there is a way by which it has to be dealt with. So mosquitoes, at least for now, don't kill the mosquitoes. So if you find it difficult, like you can get upset when you're meditation, but try to, if you practice mindfulness, if you practice patience, like it is difficult for you to meditate when the mosquito is actually uh, biting you. But you can at least use some other remedy in that case if you're in a meditation situation to drive it away. So that you can do, but do not get upset because uh, say when you are meditating, even it can be heat, there can be cold. But what upsets you most is not the heat or cold. What upsets you, the agitated mind. That is the thing that harms your meditation, not the external factor. Even if it is a noisy place, if you do not get worked up, if you do not get upset because of that, whatever thing that is disrupting your meditation, if you keep your mind at bay, at mind calm, then you can meditate. Do not let it affect you. Because if you get angry, then that is the hindrance. The hindrance of ill will. That will be the obstacle, not the external factor. You understand? So mindfulness and wisdom, that's what you need to deal with these things. Okay. So having answer. What is the simile of the woman shining? Yeah, a simile is the Buddha said, a woman shining is can shine a piece tell from where it is. It is in a sutta, but the exact sutta I don't remember. Maybe I'll tell next week. Okay, name of the sutta. In that sutta, what Buddha emphasized was the Dhamma has to be revealed for people to learn and know and to understand. Then it's science because the Dhamma is beautiful. Likewise, the opposite is true with regard to women. Women has to be concealed for their beauty to be preserved. Like that's when a lady looks beautiful. Okay. Mm, that's all in the chat. Any other questions?
Bhante, may I
Yeah.
ask you, what is the reason that we have taints in our mind? Is it because of clinging, attachments for things, Bhante?
Ignorance. Buddha said taints are there because of ignorance.
I see.
Once to get rid of ignorance, the taints will be eradicated.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Thank
Bante, I have one
Yeah.
last question. May
Yeah.
I?
Yeah.
Uh,
Sure.
Bante, you mentioned about wise consideration that there are three fetters that are abandoned by wisdom. Of course, the first one is personality view. Okay. Second is doubt. And the third one, adherence to rules and observances, the rituals. Now, the third one, Bante didn't, we didn't further explain about this one because I thought of if there are some ritual ceremonies like in our family or in our ancestors that we were asked to comply to observe, the ancestral practices, or they could be superstitious, but they could also be part of our customs and traditions. So will this be part of the fetters that we need to abandon or what?
The thing is like with regard to things you take, like those here specifically things that you take up thinking if I do this ritual or this practice or this observance, this will lead to liberation. If that mindset is there, that will purify my life. that will bring freedom from suffering. Okay? And if you harbor, say superstitions that hinder your progress in the path, because superstitions are like it falls into wrong views, because it's not the truth in life, then it's an obstacle. It is something you have to abandon. Just if it is a custom, doing it for the mere aspect of following a custom is not that much of a problem. You do it like because that is something that has to be done because we have to live in a certain community. So that is using the wisdom. You don't have to believe in that. You just do it. So you blending. That's the thing. Okay. If you believe like doing this helps me to for the practice or it purifies me, likewise, then that is taking up on you because that is not true. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Bante.
Welcome.
Bhante, I have got the sutta is in Anguttara Nikaya 3.131. It's called Conceal. The sutta.
Okay. So can you send the link to Prakriti Sharma?
Yes, I'll send the link to the whole thing. Yeah, to
Okay, so she can
maybe
see it.
Dinil Putta can help. It's 3.131 Dinil Putta, if you don't mind. Many merits.
Okay. So now we'll then conclude for today. So may all the minutes today we have together collectively acquired, myself teaching you the Dhamma, yourself listening and also discussing this Dhamma. We shared with all the Devas and the Brahmas of the world, and may they to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may also these merits be shared with all our long lost relatives in this life and also the past lives. And may their life, wherever they are born in samsara, may they find happiness and may they also, as soon as possible, realize the Four Noble Truths and be free from this woeful samsaric journey. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may also these merits shared with our teacher, Pingat Lokusawingansa, most honorable Kiribagada, Jnanananda Thero, who taught us this Dhamma. So may our teacher, Pingat Lokusawingansa, growing lifespan and also have good health and well-being and have the opportunity to fully realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may these merits shared with all the monks of the Mahavina Buddhist monastic order, the Anagarika monks, the ordination aspirants, and may they too experience happiness and well-being, have good rebirth in the heavenly worlds, and realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may also these merits be for all of us and our teachers, our parents, our loved ones, our relatives. May we all have by the power of these merits, may we have the good fortune to acquire more and more merit in this life and practice the teachings of the Buddha and have a good rebirth in the heavenly worlds and also have the opportunity to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, we will ask for forgiveness from Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Say with me. Kayena vacha cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame banti bodhipanya tathagata. Kayena vacha cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame dhamma sandittika akanika. Kayena vacha cittena pamadena maya katang Achyang kamame sangha punyaketang kanuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now to share merit with Bhante and to pay your respect, get on your knees and repeat after me. Okasa vandami Bhante. Maya katam punyang samina anumoditabang. Samina katam punyang Mayanda tabang sadhu sadhu anumodami. Okasa dwaratina katan sammang achyang kamati me bhante. Okasa kamami bhante. Dutiyampi okasa kamami bhante. Tatiyampi okasa kamami bhante. May you all be well and happy and have the good fortune to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's discourses. Teruvan Saranai. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya Bante.